What is up, Spartans? You are listening to HVAC Masters of the Hustle podcast. And here's your host, J Dub Moneymaker, and welcome to episode 206. First off and foremost, let me say thank you for everyone that reaches out every single week and truly tells me how this podcast is bringing you and your company to that next level. That's what this podcast is about, is putting these heavy hitters inside these hot seats. So we're not just talking about their successes, right? We see all that on social media. What we want to talk about is what got you here today. What did you have to battle, endure to get to the level of success that you are today? Because there are, so many people nationwide, millions of people in our industry that are struggling right now, struggling with whatever season they're in, and they're getting their teeth kicked in. My phone goes off, every freaking 30 minutes, it seems like, about, hey, what's going on? Is there enough calls out there? We're not getting enough. Sometimes you got to create your own opportunity. And this is why I have our guest in the hot seat today, because he is one of the sales manager at probably one of the biggest organizations out there in the nation. We all know the company Peterman. Let's go ahead and welcome the Shark, Steve White. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing really well. Appreciate you having me on, and thanks for the Shark title. That's fun, man. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, dude. So my marketing rep, my assistant Billy, she had the opportunity to go meet with you at lunch when we were in Indiana, and to really talk about, first off, your successes. Congratulations to where you are today, but also to talk about the struggles at Peterman, because at the end of the day, you're in charge of how many sales reps?
All in all, by the end of next week, it'll be close to 70. Yeah.
Jeez. And you talk about a lot of emotion, right? Salespeople are emotional. So before we get into the story of how to deal with all the emotions and everything, tell all my listeners, my Spartans, how did Steve get into this crazy industry we call heating and air?
Yeah. So again, first off, thanks for having me on, man. I can't say thank you enough. My journey started a long time ago in a single mother household, being raised by my working mother, up until about the point of 7 years old, where I finally was able to meet my father and gain some guidance there. But my entire childhood, I thought that I was going to go and be an anesthesiologist. Well, it turns out Steve White's not smart enough for that. And, I changed majors down at IU and decided I was going to go into elementary education. So I did that for about 6 years. And aside from that, also did athletic directing as an assistant at a middle school. And so I was working really long hours for just average wages at best, and was just getting burnt out. And my wife and I decided that we were going to start having children. We're up to 4 at this point, 3 boys and a girl.
Busy man.
Oh, man, it's crazy. 10, 6, 5, and 18 months. And back in 2000, I believe it was 13, I started my journey in the sales realm. Through college, I had only ever had one retail sales job, and that was at a jewelry store. And the motive behind that was I knew I was going to propose to my wife one day, and I wanted a discount on a ring. So, but long story short, I jumped in at a wholesaler called Habegger. They distribute Bryant products, and I was a territory manager there for just over 5 years. And one of my largest customers at the time was Chad Peterman and Pete Peterman and Tyler Peterman. So one thing led to the other there. I recognized that the leadership where I was at was not that much older than me. And so in order to continue impacting more and more people and climbing that ladder, I was going to have to potentially consider something else. And the right thing came along at the right time. Chad and I spoke and went over there to become the sales manager at Peterman. And then within a few years, worked my way to director of sales, which is where I'm at now. So
nice. Love it, dude.
Yeah,
your journey has been amazing through the industry, what you've been able to accomplish, especially at such an amazing organization and company. Can you kind of give my listeners that maybe never heard of Peterman Brothers the backstory?
Yeah. So Peterman was started as Peterman Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. We kind of got tired of saying that name, so we looked at changing to Peterman Brothers. But it started, I think it was back in 1986 in Pete Peterman's garage. while his wife, Beth, was pregnant with their oldest son, Chad Peterman, who's now our president. And he worked his way through the ranks there as a one-man operation all the way up until I believe Chad and Tyler got in the business right after college. I believe Chad went off and worked in some sort of wholesaling for a little while, but then came back to the business. But the boys have been in the business now for quite some time. And I believe it was in 2000, maybe 15, 16 is when the real trajectory of the organization started happening. I believe they were maybe around 5 to 7 million at the time. And I think they went to a Nexstar, like an all-encompassing business training, and came back with a lot of light bulbs going off, and decided, you know what, we're going to grow this thing. So they went to their dad, Pete, and said, hey, here's what we're going to do. And he said, let's do it. So over the last 5 to 8 years, I'd say, we've seen some intense growth. Looking at this year, we're sitting at about 230% over last year in HVAC equipment sales. So some big things are happening. Right now, we finished last year right around 90 million, and we're hoping through organic growth and acquisition, we can go hit that 200 mil mark this year. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely, man. I absolutely love your growth, but with growth comes growing pains, right? And you being the director of sales and overseeing the sales role and the departments and everything, what have you seen as, sales director, sales manager? What have you seen to be your biggest struggle to maintain 70 different personalities when it comes to sales professionals?
Well, as you know, salespeople are emotional humans.
No, absolutely.
You're more than a manager. You're more than a process implementer. You're more than a trainer. You are so many things, and that includes psychiatrist, right? Is that what you just said too? Yeah. There's a lot of truth in that. And so I went from having 5 comfort advisors to, on the HVAC side, I think we've got between 30, 32 right now. And there's a lot of growing pains in that, a lot of new processes, a lot of, we're on a trajectory where we're pulling people from outside the industry just as much, if not more, than comfort advisors elsewhere in the industry.
Yeah.
Because we want to build our habits, Peterman habits, not just heating and air sales habits, right? We want to build them from the ground up. And so that's been a huge challenge when we find people, showing them the Peterman way, and really working to build strong sales habits where we're really trying to find solutions for homeowners and not just shoving equipment and sales down their throats, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a long road. It's been such a fast trajectory that when I came in, our department was doing around 7 million, and this year we're going to try to do about 110. So
I love it.
Yeah, it's fun stuff.
So as you continue to grow, right, you got to make sure that you keep the culture of Peterman Brothers, but also bringing people in to match the culture, right? As I travel and train, one of the biggest things that I hear right now is it's so hard to get people. Mm-hmm. What does Peterman Brothers do in order to find the right people to keep that great, amazing culture around?
I think first and foremost is we pride ourselves on finding really good, positive leadership who are well connected in not just the HVAC industry, but their industry wherever they came from. So I've had some really, really good hires, at least what I feel are really good hires in an HVAC sales manager. Hired a gentleman that also used to work over at the wholesaler that I was at, who's well connected to the industry. So he's been able to use his network to find comfort advisors and use some of his relationships outside the industry to find good people. I hired a sales manager for sewer that was in the furniture world and was selling at an Ashley Furniture here as a sales manager and sales associate. My inside sales manager was a realtor and a real estate broker, as well as a furniture salesperson. And so those networks are extremely important. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, we've worked to create an entire department centered around recruiting. So we've got under HR, we've got, I think, a 5 or 6 man recruiting team, and all they're doing all day, every day is going after people nationwide, trying to find the best talent and add them to our team. So that's been huge.
Love it. Love it. One thing that I've noticed is, when teams are getting, growing and getting bigger, especially the stature that you guys are, sometimes when it comes to the sales role, I talk about the customer experience from passing the baton off to the sales team to the install team. As I travel, that always seems the biggest disconnect in any company, right? What does Peterman do to make sure that that pass of that baton or that transition is a smooth transition so they get that customer experience through every department, every touch, every fill?
Yeah, yeah, and to your point, it's never perfect, right? We're doing everything we can to make it as good as we can, but we've instituted some procedures and some people to try to alleviate sorry, you'll have to cut this part out, but to alleviate the pain in the transition from the CA to the install team. So we've got what's called field supervisors at all of our 6 branches, as well as a few in our main headquarters branch of Indianapolis. And their sole job is to look at jobs that get turned in via our sales software, as well as our email. We kind of dual turn in things just to cover our ass there. But these guys will take those jobs. They'll look through all of the site surveys. We make our guys take pictures and make our guys take videos, measurements. It all gets turned in together at one time before they put their car in drive and leave the home. And so these guys will take that, they'll run with it, they'll order. Those are the guys that are in charge of ordering the equipment. And then if it's a job that's any more difficult than just a simple rip out, put back in residentially, they'll walk the job either later that day or the next morning prior to us installing it. And so we've got a good checks and balances there. It does help. We're starting to kind of be our own distribution center for the rest of our branches. And so we're going to have all that equipment in-house, all those parts and pieces in-house. And so any errors, mistakes that have been made in the process, we'll be able to easily correct them on the fly because we have all this stuff. So
absolutely. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's trying to be as most efficient as possible, right? You know, it's crazy because a lot of owners don't operate the way that you guys operate. You know, I go in there, I look and I say, hey, you know, you guys happily involve this homeowner with the system replacement. What does that transition look like? And for some of my listeners, you guys might be doing it and shooting from the hip, which is not a good way to be. But, you know, they sell the job, they send in the invoice or the agreement, and that's it. Model numbers, serial numbers. There's no pictures, there's no measurement. So as an installer, I always put myself in that situation back in, you know, 10 plus years ago of my mindset. And it usually happens on a Monday or a Friday as an installer. You walk up and you're like, man, this job's not going to fit in the attic. And now you got to enlarge the attic access or, you know, drag it through the return intake through a bunch of trusses. And all of a sudden it adds hours and hours onto your job potentially, instead of tackling the stuff up front. Understanding as an installer, hey, this is what my job is today. This is what I'm getting myself into. These are the hurdles that we're going to be going into. It's a lot better to know and understand what you're getting into instead of being blindsided, because then when you're getting blindsided, it could also affect the culture of the company. And that's
100%.
Really when you get that cat and mouse. You know, how many times have you heard, maybe not there, but how many times have you heard an installer not wanting to install a sales rep's job that they sold because they don't document properly?
100%. It's happened. Matter of fact, and going back to your previous question, that was one of the growing pains that we went through when I got here. We had some seasoned veterans. Every single rep that I had when I jumped into the sales manager role was a seasoned veteran, with the exception of maybe one guy who was younger than me. Everybody else had decades of sales experience. So I coming into the picture and trying to kind of create some accountability and some processes and some things that they weren't used to. It was tough to overcome at first. And I think we talked about this morning in one of our huddles. It's no one cares what you know until they know that you care. Right. So, and absolutely. I came in and I was spending too much time on trying to swing my weight around, as opposed to trying to really get to know them and show them that I cared before changing some procedures and processes. But to your point, that is vital that those two teams are in lockstep at all times.
So maybe some listeners are in a new role as a sales manager, or maybe jumped into a role not knowing HVAC. And, you know, when you have these seasoned vets over there, you know, just like yourself, how as a leader did you overcome any type of, you know, objections that they were trying to throw at you? Because it's hard as a leader taking ownership of a department that has seasoned vets that's been here for 20, 25 years, 15 years. And all of a sudden you're a new guy coming in. So talk to some of my listeners that are maybe in that same realm of work that you're doing, and they're trying to take control of that department right now?
Yeah, that's it's a huge obstacle. And coming from the wholesale world, I never really had any true comfort advisor experience outside of going into small businesses that had maybe, you know, a total of 10 employees and maybe only one or two comfort advisors, and working to train them on how to better sell, you know, a Bryant piece of equipment or whatever it may be. And so I didn't have a lot of in-home sales experience. And so gaining the trust of these guys that I had any sort of clue what I was talking about was tough at first. So I had to entrench myself in every bit of training I could possibly think of. And, you know, I tell my wife this all the time: if you're not smarter than somebody, you just have to outwork them. And I'm never the smartest guy in the room, I can assure you of that. And so it's having the intentionality to be willing to. I think I went to 5 Nexstar classes and really owned that process and learned that process before I was even remotely able to come back and teach it to my team. And you know, additionally, I spent time in the cars with the guys and talked, you know, maybe a little bit of shop, but 90% of it was just about, who are you? What are your goals in life? And how can I help you achieve them? You'll realize that I care about your success just as much as I care about my own. And we'll go reach for the stars together. And that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. I love that you said that, because, you know, a lot of supervisors, managers, owners don't get in the truck to ride with their guys to see what they're doing. And I think that goes a long ways. I mean, as a trainer, that's what separates me from, I think, a lot of people training in the realm of HVAC or the trades, is they do the classroom training, but no one goes and implements what they preach in the field with your team to show them that, hey, first off, I care about you, but this stuff works. Not only am I talking about it, I'm showing you that it works. So, but what you said is understanding who you are in front of, who you're working with, who's in your department, what goals do they want to achieve. It's not all about money every single time. It might be, hey, I want a little bit of extra time with family time. So then you bonus them a couple out a day paid off or something like that, because they don't care about the $1,000 extra. They just want to be with the family. So really understanding who's in your department, what they care about, and what they visualize and want to accomplish is huge as a leader.
It's the one thing that's going to make or break you as a good leader.
Absolutely.
Honestly. And that has nothing to do with the sales department. That's any role in any industry, anywhere, right? So totally agree with
100% on that. You know, one thing that you're talking about is the importance of training and making sure that your guys are always training, always learning, always growing, being a sponge, right? Talk about, what is it that you do for training? How often do you train, and what training have you all invested in?
Yeah. So first and foremost, you've got to lead by example. You got to be willing to show them that you don't ever claim to know it all, and that you're just as invested in getting more and more knowledge every day as anybody, right? And so we've got this culture at Peterman where we get to the shop extremely early. I was at the shop today at 6:00. That's not every day, but we're an early get after it company, and I think it starts with the culture of your organization, showing the way that, hey, no one's perfect. No one's got all the knowledge, but we're going to get here and we're going to grind it out. And so one of the things that we do is we've got with our comfort advisors specifically, and our drain specialists on the sewer side, that's what we call our outside sewer team, but is a daily huddle in the morning. It's a 15 to 30-minute Zoom call. Every guy gets on, or gal, and they turn their camera on. They're attentive. They're looking at the screen, and they're expected to participate. And in those things, we'll talk a little bit about some housekeeping stuff. We'll go through some of that process stuff that you just kind of got to get through, or a new product or a new promotion or whatever it may be. And then we jump into some hard sales skill stuff. Like today's, it was, hey, you know, I'm just not prepared to buy today. I need to think about it. And we jumped into 20 minutes of how to handle that objection, and listen to guys come up with ideas. And then we, as a sales leadership team, kind of weighed in on some of our thoughts on that. Additionally, we have an entire sales organization meeting once a month, where we spend 2 hours role playing in person. We have a sales coach on our staff that has regional meetings twice a week, where people that are either, you know, kind of struggling on the bottom of the batting order, or having a hard time with, you know, with their average revenue per lead or their close rate or whatever it may be, they can join in those sessions. And those typically last between 1.5 hours to 2 hours, and really hone in on what part of the process am I missing out on? Or what am I doing in the home that's like, oh man, I shouldn't be doing that. That's legitimately the thing that's causing me not to sell the job, right? So those types of things. We have invested. I think I've told you that before. We've invested heavily in Nexstar. We've currently invested in an organization called Service MVP with Joe Coursera. I'm sure you're familiar with him.
Great coach right there. Yep.
Yeah, he's doing some good stuff with us for what we're calling our call by call department, which is kind of a new thing for us, doing a little bit of virtual sales and having people kind of behind the screen, coaching our technicians on how to best offer solutions to homeowners, and then how to flip those over to sell systems if it's necessary and it's a good solution for the homeowner. So we're definitely not afraid to spend money to make it right.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what you got to do is, there's a lot of trainers out there that are really good, that are going to help elevate you to the next level, but you got to understand, first off, you got to invest. A lot of companies, they want to grow, but they don't want to invest in themselves. Talk about the importance of investing in your team and in yourself and the different things that are out there. I mean, so many people are really good at what they do in this industry that are helping thousands of people across the nation. Talk about why Peterman does training. I mean, we talked a little bit about what you did, but why do you do the training?
Absolutely. So our 5 core values, man, I'm going to try to rattle them off and not fumble here, but they are at Peterman. They're grow continuously, do what's right, own results together, lead ourselves, and I'm trying to think which one I missed here. Care genuinely. And so grow continuously is a big deal, along with lead ourselves. And in training, we kind of expect it around here. Whether you're trying to reach for, climb the ladder from an organizational standpoint, trying to be in more of a leadership role where you're actually managing people. We don't look at leaders as just those people in those titles. We look at everybody as a leader in some capacity. And so Chad Peterman, I think it's maybe once to 2 times a month, has a super early meeting in the morning, 6 a.m., and it's optional, and it's called Future Leaders. And he puts himself at the front of the room and speaks on some of the things he's learned about leadership and growth and how to better yourself. And I think just because the organization puts so much emphasis and importance on that, it's created this culture that people just want to get better, and they want to train, they want to better their craft and refine their skills. And so I think it's just ingrained in what we do.
Love it. Yeah. Talking about, creating a good craft and skills, your sales team has an amazing skill level. We're talking about average tickets, closing percentage off air. Talk about what you all are doing. What's your average ticket? What's the closing percentage? What's the best guy on your team producing?
Yeah. So last year, our top dog did, I want to say it was around 4.4 million, somewhere in that realm. Our average ticket as a team fluctuates between $13,000-$14,000 this year. By year end, we're with this new program that we're implementing in call by call, we're gonna hopefully push on that pretty hard and get it up near 16 to 17. And that will raise our average ticket quite a bit as well. But we hover around 45% close rate as a group, and I think a large reason for that particular close rate is a lot of what we do currently is market leads. Our company it prides itself on its name, that the brothers, their face, and what we pride ourselves on is our name. And we lean heavily on that. And for that reason, coupled with some of the promotions that we do, we're a heavily market lead company. And we're going to try to transition a lot of that too into a high turnover team, because we ultimately know that that's what's best for our consumers that are spending a lot of money repairing old stuff, and they shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. And so we're just going to get better at it.
What does the Peterman process look like? And a quick little explanation. When you go
in terms of the in-home sales process? Yeah. So our guys are poloed up. They've got branded clothing on. They always park on the road. They're in a branded vehicle. That's first and foremost. We expect them to be prepared for every call. They've got their backpack ready to go. We expect them to be at the door once they park in under a minute. We don't want them fumbling around. Yep. having trash fall out of their vehicle. We want them keeping them clean. We want them to be succinct. We want them to be a pro, right? We always preach that. Be a pro. Be a pro. Be what the other CAs in the industry are unwilling to be. And so we get to the door quickly. We're always knocking. We're never ringing. We're stepping back. We're smiling. We're greeting at the door. And first and foremost, we're telling them why we're there and confirming who we're with. Then we jump into telling them kind of what is the agenda of the day going to look like. And we expect you, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, to be with us a majority of the time, because when is a sale lost, right? And that's isolation, when you're not with someone, right? You're gonna try to keep them with us the entire time, if at all possible. And then we're going to we do what's called a comfort survey. So we really dial in how comfortable are you in the home, because we know heating and air, we always tend to believe that it's only about temperature, and it's about so many more things than just temperature, right? Air quality is a huge one. Humidity is a huge one. Airflow. There's all these different components to being comfortable. And so we go through that and we ask them, we talk to them about their bills. We talk to them about what makes them uncomfortable. What room in the house are they struggling to keep, heated in the wintertime, cooled in the summertime, so on and so forth. And then we, once we get up from the table, and we always try to sit down at the table, we always try to get them, shoulder to shoulder and really involved in the process. But from there, we go straight to the thermostat. We always start there because that's what people believe is their heating and cooling, right? They all think they have Honeywell systems. So,
right.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, it's so we start there, and again, we continue our dialogue and our open-ended questions. And then we proceed to the equipment, both indoor and outdoor, keeping them with us the whole time. And then once all of our information's gathered, we start kind of price conditioning them through that process as well, and getting them to understand that we're a company that offers financing and almost expects it, and we assume it with just about all of our customers, because we know anything over $5,000. I think the statistic is 91 to 92% of people are going to finance anything over $5,000. We know that. And so we've got a good partner, a good finance partner that we've partnered with, and we go straight to that. And then we're offering 6 options. I know a lot of people say 3, some people say 4. We believe in 6. We pretty up the base. We pretty up the most high end, and then everything in between. And we try to tailor our options to fit the exact conversation that we had, so that we're finding solutions. We're not just blabbing about our options.
And that's one thing that I always say is, if you could create options, right, where it feels custom tailored to the homeowner, rather than getting your presentation book out and going, all right, my Optimum, Premier, Deluxe, and then it's just a price, right? Well, what separates you from your client prior or after? You got to make sure that you're designing the system, you're hitting all those pain points, all the concerns, you're asking permission to give solutions. They're engaging, just like Steve said, the very, very importance of having that homeowner walk around the house with you, engaging in every process, because the second they leave and they're not engaged, all of a sudden you're going to lose that sale, or you're going to lose that momentum that you have. And that's why I think it's very important to take control of the appointment at the beginning. We're all strangers, so go to a table right at the beginning, go through a comfort survey, explain who you are. I mean, at the end of the day, Spartans, you got to understand, if you're to drive a 60-mile radius, north, south, east, and west, how many HVAC contractors can they choose from? So it just makes me crazy that people aren't willing to explain what makes them different in the house. But
man, that's so good. I always use the analogy, man. If you're on a street and you see 2 homes that are identical in paint color, identical in layout, identical in every way, shape, or form, one's $200,000 and the other one's $300,000, and they're identical, which one are you going to buy? You're going to buy the cheaper one. So if you don't set yourself apart from the others when you're in the home, they're just going to go with the cheapest.
Yep.
And we pride ourselves on not being that. We're not the cheapest, and we don't want to be.
Absolutely not. And then understanding that homeowners aren't educated on this stuff. They do it once or twice in their life, right? We do this stuff every day, 3 times a day, 4 times a day sometimes. So to us, it's repetitive. But when you have someone that's never invested, never bought an HVAC system, they don't know. Right. So it's spending the time, because at the end of the day, these are significant investments. Average ticket, 15, 16,000, right? That's a lot of money. And if you were to listen to this podcast and I was to say, do you have $15,000 in your bank account? 95% of the people listening to this podcast are going to say no.
Correct.
So there's the other part of why Steve says that they offer financing on every call is because people are payment buyers. It's really hard to let go of $15,000 if you do even have it in your bank account, right? Like, here you go for an HVAC system. That's not like buying a car where it's sexy and it's attractive. I'm not calling my friend out, my neighbor, and saying, hey, stand right here in my front room. Hang on. You feel that AC? That's 250 CFM right there coming out of that
air right
there. Right? You don't hear that. So, I mean, the importance of having that dialogue, following through with it. You guys mastered your craft out there. But what you said at the beginning of the podcast is you haven't mastered anything. You're still growing, right? You're still learning. You're still adapting every day. And that's what I want people to listen on this podcast to understand is there's a reason why Steve's on this podcast, right? Is because he's always a student. There's a reason why I host this podcast and I have heavy hitters every single week because I'm always a student. I'm always learning. There's not anyone, even when I'm on-site training, that I can't learn information from. The parts runner, I've learned a lot of value information from a parts runner who is 16, 17 years old that hits the same routes, right? Every single day. They know what's going on at the parts houses and stuff like that. And there's engagement and questions that I ask. So understanding who's on your team, the customer relationship, and getting things done as efficient as possible. Steve, one thing I want to talk about real quick is self-generating leads. I know you guys got a lot of calls that come in and you guys generate a lot of leads, but what do you do for self-generated leads? Do you coach your team to during slow season to go get leads, go to their installs and do quality checks? How do they do that?
Yeah, I would say that's probably one of our biggest lacking areas of our sales organization. It's something that we've got a magnifying glass on right now. We've just recently partnered with our marketing team where every single Comfort Advisor drain specialist is having a social media page created for them. We're going to help them push content to, and really hone in on going after people that we know. We're looking at doing free safety inspections where we're actually going to have Comfort Advisors during slow season go knock on doors and hand cards to people and say, hey, I'm here. I'm going to do a free safety inspection if you'll allow me to. We'll come in, look at your system, tell you that we found a couple things. If we did, right, ethically, we're not going to try to sell people things they don't need, but probably focus on neighborhoods where we know things are aging. That's something that we're looking at where guys can go do those, go knock on doors and sell stuff. Go revisit the consumers that have purchased large systems from us where we know those systems in those neighborhoods are aging as well, and offer to buy them a cup of coffee and hang out with them if they'll take you and introduce you to a couple neighbors. Absolutely. That type of stuff is very important. Additionally, we do a lot of community events, a ton. We actually have a community events coordinator where that's her entire job. And so, just about every parade, carnival, fair you can think of in central Indiana, we're probably a part of it. And we've got people working those events, handing out cards, scheduling leads. And so that's been able to be productive for us as well.
Love it. Steve, I got to ask you, what drives you? What's your purpose and your why? And
so I don't know if you can see on my camera here, but I've got, as I told you, I've got those three boys right there that are 10, 6, and 5. I've finally got us a daughter, a 18-month-old, and a beautiful wife that I've dated since I'm trying to think I was about 17 years old. So for 21 years, and I get up every day to try to do what I can to set them up for their future. I watched my mother struggle when I was a young child to make ends meet. I watched my dad go from zero to hero in the sales realm. He went from making very little money to being a sales development leader at one of the large distribution companies here in Indiana. And so I've seen what it takes, and I want to do that for my family as well. So
love it.
Aside from that, just impacting people, seeing their growth. I'm an educator at heart. I think I told you that. I did that for years, and watching children go from the beginning of the year to the end of the year and seeing their growth is very similar to watching the impact that you get to have on not just these sales guys, but everybody in the organization, walking around bumping fists with customer service reps and accounting folks and you name it, and just watching the smiles on their faces and how you can impact them. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely, Steve. I love seeing your growth and your journey through this industry. And I'm happy that you and I were able to not meet yet in person, but to have a dialogue where you and I could bounce questions off of each other and really push each other and elevate each other to get to the next level, surrounding ourselves with like-minded people. I got listeners, first off, over 10,000 listeners per episode. First off, I know that you guys are always hiring, so I got to give you all a shout out. If you
Send them
guys,
our way, man.
if you are in the market of looking at another company, another opportunity, and something that Steve resonates with you, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook, Steve White. I'm on LinkedIn, just my name, man. Look me up on either of those two platforms. I have Instagram, but I'm not a huge poster. I do a lot of following and clicking and watching, but I don't do a whole lot of posting on that regard. But also my phone number, I'm happy to give it to you and have you publish it if you'd like. I'm happy to help anybody and everybody. It's 317-590-7539, and my email is just swhite@petermanhvac.com.
Love it. Love it. So I got listeners from business owners, dispatchers, CSRs, installers, service technicians, sales professionals. What would you like for them to get out of this episode of HVAC Masters of the Hustle?
Oh man. Hey, I tell you what. So for me, what I've been able to do in the short tenure that I've been in the HVAC realm is work from knowing virtually nothing about HVAC to now leading the charge of a large team of several different departments and a lot of comfort advisors. And I'll never say that I got here because I was the smartest person in the room. I'll never say I got here because I was just handed an opportunity. Grit and outworking people. That is what it is all about. My wife will tell you, she hates, I come home and I'm answering calls from comfort advisors and other managers, and I'm doing these things, but I always turn to tell her, I said, hey, why we're able to have the lifestyle and do the things that we're able to do is because I'm there for my people. Right. And if you're not the smartest person in the world, then you just gotta grind it out. So
love it, brother. Be there for your people and the sky's the limits of what can happen and what's possible. Dude, it's absolutely been an honor, Steve, to have you in the hot seat. I can't wait for us to meet in person. I'm out in Indiana every other month, so I know you and I are going to get together. But until next time, y'all take care.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Appreciate the time today, man.
Yeah. Boom. Nice and easy.